The air hung heavy in the station, thick with the smell of stale disinfectant and the lingering scent of fear. A cold draft, like the breath of a forgotten winter, swept across the deserted platform. I stood alone, the only passenger waiting for the 11:30 express. The digital clock above the entrance flickered, the numbers blurring as if the very fabric of time was fraying at the edges. An unsettling feeling gnawed at me, a primal fear that whispered of unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. The station, usually bustling with commuters, felt eerily silent. The only sound the rhythmic drip of water from a leaky pipe, echoing like a morbid heartbeat. As the minutes ticked by, the clock seemed to mock my growing anxiety. The 11:30 was due any minute, yet the platform remained eerily vacant. The usual pre-departure announcements, a comforting routine, were absent. A chill, inexplicable dread settled over me. Suddenly a faint spectral light flickered at the end of the tunnel. It was a pale, ethereal glow, like a dying candle in a vast empty room. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. The light grew brighter, pulsing, casting distorted shadows that danced on the platform walls. It drew closer, slowly, inexorably, until it reached the platform, revealing a figure standing within its hazy aura. It was a woman, draped in a tattered gray dress. Her face was shrouded in darkness, but her eyes, burning with an unnatural luminescence, stared directly at me. She spoke, her voice a whisper that seemed to come from the very air itself. "You should not be here," she whispered, her words chillingly calm. "This platform is for the departed." I couldn't move, paralyzed by fear. The woman's gaze seemed to pierce my soul and I felt a surge of icy dread. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the light vanished, the woman dissolving into the shadows. The station was silent once more, the only evidence of the encounter the lingering chill that clung to my skin. The 11:30 never arrived. It was a humid summer night, the air thick with the scent of rain and exhaust fumes. I stood crammed inside a crowded rush-hour train, the bodies around me radiating heat and anxiety. I clutched my bag tightly, trying to ignore the feeling that someone was watching me. The train lurched forward, the sudden jolt causing a wave of movement within the carriage. I felt a cold hand brush against my arm. I turned, expecting to see a fellow passenger, but saw nothing. The woman next to me was reading a book, her face obscured by the flickering light of her Kindle. I tried to dismiss it as a misinterpretation, but the feeling persisted. I felt a cold presence, a shadow that moved with me through the crowded carriage. It was a phantom touch, a feeling of being observed, analyzed, judged. The air around me seemed to grow colder, and a prickling sensation ran down my spine. Turning again, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing in the shadows at the end of the carriage. A tall, gaunt man, his face obscured by the darkness, his eyes two burning embers in the gloom. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. He held my gaze for a fleeting moment, a silent, predatory stare that sent shivers down my spine. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. The train continued its journey, the passengers oblivious to the chilling encounter. I was left with a feeling of profound unease, a sense of violation that lingered long after I had disembarked. The station was a labyrinth of echoing tunnels and cavernous platforms. I had taken the wrong train, a late-night express to the distant outskirts of the city. The journey was long, the train nearly empty, the only other passenger, a young woman slumped in a corner, her face buried in a book. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as if the very walls were closing in. I sensed a presence, a watchful eye that followed me through the darkened carriage. The rhythmic rumble of the train was punctuated by a series of strange noises, whispers that seemed to seep from the very fabric of the station walls. The whispers grew louder, becoming more distinct, forming words that I could vaguely decipher, punctuated by a chilling laughter that sent shivers down my spine. The young woman remained oblivious, her face still buried in her book. I tried to ignore the whispers, but they grew more insistent, more menacing, as if the station itself was alive, breathing and whispering secrets it wasn't meant to reveal. The train finally pulled into my station. As I stepped onto the platform, the whispers faded into a distant murmur. I turned, looking back at the train, but it was already gone, disappearing into the labyrinth of tunnels. I stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of the unseen presence, the chilling echo of the whispering walls. The journey back home was a blur, the terrifying whispers still echoing in my mind. I knew, with a sinking dread, that I had crossed a threshold, stumbled into a world where shadows held secrets and walls had a voice. Like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories.